Section 1.1 ADRE Rules and Authority in Today's Market. Introduction. Why ADRE authority matters to Arizona agents. When a real estate licensee begins practicing in Arizona, they are entering a profession that is heavily regulated for the protection of the public. Unlike many other industries, real estate professionals are granted the legal authority to represent clients in transactions involving one of the largest financial investments a consumer will make in their lifetime. Because of that responsibility, Arizona law establishes a regulatory framework that governs how licensees must conduct themselves, how brokers supervise agents, and how real estate businesses operate. The Arizona Department of Real Estate, ADRE, is the state agency responsible for enforcing these laws and ensuring the real estate industry operates in a way that protects the public while maintaining professional standards. The department's authority is primarily established under Arizona Revised Statutes Title 32, Chapter 20, which outlines licensing requirements, professional conduct standards, disciplinary authority, and consumer protection mechanisms. The commissioner of the department is granted the power to administer the chapter, conduct investigations, adopt rules, and enforce disciplinary action when licensees violate the law. Under ARS, paragraph 32, 2107, the commissioner has the authority to adopt rules necessary to administer the real estate statutes and protect the public interest. This statutory authority forms the legal foundation for the Arizona Administrative Code Title IV, Chapter 28, commonly referred to as the Commissioner's Rules. These rules provide operational guidance and clarify how licensees must comply with statutory requirements. The relationship between statutes, administrative rules, and policy statements is critical for real estate professionals to understand. Statutes are laws passed by the Arizona legislature. Administrative rules are created by the department to implement those laws. Substantive policy statements are guidance documents that explain how the department interprets and applies those laws in practice. Together, these three elements form the regulatory environment that governs Arizona real estate practice. Authority of the Arizona Department of Real Estate. The Arizona Department of Real Estate was created to oversee licensing and regulation of real estate professionals across the state. Its mission is to protect the public through education, regulation, and enforcement. The department regulates thousands of licensees across Arizona, including brokers, salespersons, real estate schools, instructors, developers, subdividers, and property managers. According to the Arizona Real Estate Law Book, the commissioner has broad authority to investigate potential violations, conduct hearings, issue orders, and discipline licensees when necessary. These powers are outlined in ARS, paragraph 32, 2108, which allows the commissioner to investigate licensees, subpoena documents, and compel testimony when investigating violations of real estate law. This authority ensures the department can respond when consumers file complaints or when misconduct occurs within the industry. If violations are found, the commissioner may issue disciplinary actions under ARS paragraph 32, 2153, which outlines grounds for denial, suspension, or revocation of licenses. These disciplinary actions may include civil penalties, license suspension, license revocation, letters of concern, or corrective education requirements. For example, if a real estate agent in Phoenix fails to disclose known material defects about a property to a buyer, the department may investigate whether the agent violated professional conduct standards. If the investigation finds the agent knowingly concealed information, the department may discipline the licensee under the authority granted by statute. Commissioner's Rules, Arizona Administrative Code R428. While statutes provide the legal framework for real estate practice, the day-to-day operational requirements are found within the Arizona Administrative Code Title IV, Chapter 28. These rules are commonly called the Commissioner's Rules because they are adopted by the real estate commissioner to implement and clarify statutory requirements. The Commissioner's Rules address many operational aspects of real estate practice, including advertising, education requirements, licensing procedures, document retention, and professional conduct. One of the most important sections for real estate professionals is AAC R4 281101, which outlines the duties of licensees. This rule requires licensees to act with honesty, integrity, and reasonable care when representing clients. It also requires licensees to disclose material facts that may affect a buyer's decision regarding a property. In addition, AAC R428-1102 addresses property negotiations, clarifying how licensees must conduct negotiations when representing parties in a transaction. These rules ensure agents operate ethically and professionally while negotiating transactions on behalf of clients. Recent rulemaking adopted in 2025 significantly updated many of these rules. The Arizona Department of Real Estate amended more than 50 rules across several articles of Title IV, Chapter 28, in order to modernize language and align rules with statutory changes enacted by the legislature. These updates were part of the department's comprehensive 5-year rule review process and included revisions to rules governing education, advertising, professional conduct, compensation disclosures, and broker supervision. One new rule added during this process was R428-307, which created an inactive license status that allows licensees to maintain their license without meeting continuing education requirements while not actively practicing real estate. October rule changes. Definition of a substantive policy statement. In addition to statutes and rules, the department may issue substantive policy statements to provide guidance regarding how the department interprets existing law. A substantive policy statement does not create new law, but explains how the department applies existing statutes and rules. These statements are commonly used to clarify regulatory expectations and address emerging industry practices. For example, as real estate marketing has evolved to include digital media and artificial intelligence, the department has issued guidance clarifying how existing advertising rules apply to these technologies. Licensees must understand that while policy statements are not legally binding statutes, they often reflect how the department will interpret the law during investigations or disciplinary proceedings. Understanding these policy statements helps licensees remain compliant and avoid potential violations. Relationship between statutes, rules, and policy. Understanding the hierarchy of real estate regulation is essential for every Arizona licensee. The relationship between statutes, administrative rules, and policy statements can be summarized as follows. Statutes, Arizona Revised Statutes, create the law. Administrative rules, Arizona Administrative Code, explain how those laws are implemented. Substantive policy statements, explain how the department interprets and enforces the rules. For example, the Arizona legislature created licensing requirements in ARS, paragraph 32-2122, which requires individuals to hold a license to act as a real estate broker or salesperson. The commissioner then adopted rules describing how licensing applications are submitted and processed under AAC R428-301 and R428-303. Finally, the department may issue policy statements explaining how documentation requirements are evaluated during application review. Together, these 3 layers create a regulatory framework that guides real estate practice in Arizona. Broker supervision under R428-1103. One of the most important regulatory responsibilities in Arizona real estate involves broker supervision. Under AAC R428-1103, designated brokers are responsible for exercising reasonable supervision and control over the activities of the licensees working under their brokerage. This rule requires brokers to establish written policies, training procedures, and oversight systems to ensure that agents comply with both statutes and administrative rules. Broker supervision includes monitoring advertising, reviewing contracts, ensuring compliance with disclosure requirements, and maintaining transaction records. The rule also requires brokers to implement systems for identifying and correcting violations. This is why many brokerages implement compliance programs and progressive disciplinary policies. In fact, many Arizona brokerages now implement compliance tracking systems to ensure that agents submit transaction documents within required timeframes. This ensures that brokers maintain proper oversight and can demonstrate compliance during a department audit. Phoenix market example. Consider a brokerage operating in Gilbert, Arizona with 120 agents. If one of those agents posts a social media advertisement that does not include the brokerage name as required by advertising rules, the designated broker is responsible for ensuring the advertisement is corrected. If the broker fails to supervise advertising practices across the brokerage, the department may determine that the broker violated R428-1103 for failure to supervise licensees. This example highlights how broker supervision directly impacts compliance and why brokers must maintain systems for monitoring licensee activity. Recap questions. Why does Arizona give the Department of Real Estate authority to regulate real estate professionals? Answer: because real estate transactions involve significant financial risk to consumers. Regulation ensures professionals follow ethical and legal standards that protect the public. How do statutes, administrative rules, and policy statements work together in Arizona real estate regulation? Answer: statutes create the law, administrative rules explain how the law is implemented, and policy statements clarify how the department interprets and enforces those laws. Why is broker supervision such an important component of the Arizona real estate regulatory system? Answer: because designated brokers are responsible for overseeing the conduct of licensees working under their brokerage and ensuring transactions comply with statutes, rules, and professional conduct standards.